The meeting room was completely silent, the kind of silence that burns your skin, that makes the air disappear, that turns 10 people into pillars of salt. Amanda stopped mid-sentence. His eyes were wide, his mouth was open, his hands were shaking over the folder he was holding. She had just said that, the word that everyone there knew shouldn't have been said. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." She tried to swallow the lump in her throat, but her voice broke. "It's just that you're being a bit arrogant with the idea I brought, that's all." Nobody was breathing. The man at the end of the table, Marcus Almeida, CEO of Almeida and Santos Consultoria, 42 years old, impeccable navy blue suit, gray tie, erect posture, didn't move. His brown eyes remained fixed on her, not angry, not with contempt, just fixed. Amanda felt her legs wobble. Around the table, the other managers looked away. Fernanda from finance looked at her notebook as if it were the most interesting thing in the world. Carlos from the commercial pretended to adjust the clock. Julio, Marcus's right-hand man, was petrified next to him, with his pen suspended in the air. The air conditioning hummed softly. Someone swallowed hard. The clock on the wall said 4:37 p.m., but it seemed like time had frozen. Everyone expected dismissal, on time, right there. But Marcus didn't scream. It didn't hit the table. He didn't point the finger. He just tilted his head slightly to the side as if processing something with infinite patience, and said, "Arrogant." The word came out slowly, almost like a question. "Do you think I'm being arrogant because I disagreed with your proposal to cut team training to increase board bonuses?" Amanda opened her mouth. It closed. Tried again. That's not what I meant. So what did you mean?" Marcus crossed his fingers on the table, taking his time. His voice was calm, almost professorial. "Because I'm genuinely trying to understand, Amanda. I brought data. I showed 3 cases of companies that collapsed doing exactly what you proposed. I explained why our strength is at the bottom, not at the top. And you called it arrogance." Silence returned, but this time it was different, heavy, embarrassing, the kind of silence that exposes. Julio cleared his throat softly. Fernanda moved the papers unnecessarily. Carlos ventured, "Marcus, I think it was just a bad choice of words, right, Amanda? Maybe incisive would be better." "No." Marcus raised his hand calmly but firmly. "I want to hear from her, because arrogant is an interesting word. It's the one they always use when a black man has a strong opinion, when he doesn't lower his head, when he knows what he's talking about and doesn't apologize for it." Amanda turned white. His hands gripped the edge of the table. Marcus continued, his voice calm, almost didactic. "I could fire you now. It would even be expected, wouldn't it?" The black CEO losing his patience, proving that he is too emotional for the role. He paused. "But I'm not going to do that. Do you know why?" Nobody responded. "Because I want you to think. I want everyone here to think." He leaned forward slightly, looking at each person around the table. "And at the next meeting, Amanda, I hope for a better proposal. One that doesn't throw our team into the fire to heat up half a dozen executives." He stood up, adjusted his tie, and picked up his briefcase. "Meeting closed. Good afternoon, everybody," and left. The door closed with a soft click, but the impact was that of an explosion. 2.5 years earlier, Marcus Almeida hadn't always been CEO. He had been the first black analyst at Almeida and Santos, hired by Gabriel Santos, the founding partner, at a time when the company barely had a name in the market. It was 2007. Marcus was 29 years old, with a business degree from a college no one knew about, a CV full of internships and temporary jobs. He had knocked on 20 doors before arriving at Almeida and Santos, 20 interviews where you heard, "You don't have the profile we're looking for," or "We'll keep you in our database." Gabriel Santos was different. He looked at the resume, looked Marcus in the eye and said, "Do you know how to make coffee?" Marcus blinked. "Yes, sir." "Do you know how to carry a folder?" "Yes." "And do you know how to shut up and learn?" Marcus held the gaze. "I also know how to work harder than anyone here, if you give me a chance." Gabriel smiled. It was the first time anyone smiled at Marcus in an interview room. "Monday, 8 o'clock. Don't be late." Marcus joined as a trainee. I made coffee, loaded folders, reviewed reports that others took credit for. But he watched, learned. I memorized it. He arrived an hour early. I left 2 hours later. I read every process, every contract, every notice, and most importantly, it delivered. When Gabriel started to give real opportunities, Marcus didn't waste any. The first tender he handled alone, a contract for tax consultancy for City Hall, was considered impossible. The company had 3 larger, more experienced competitors. Marcus studied for 3 weeks straight. He put together an impeccable proposal, and he won. Gabriel patted him on the shoulder and said, "You're not a trainee anymore. Starting tomorrow, you are a senior analyst." 5 years later, Marcus was manager. 8 years later, director. He commanded teams, closed million-dollar contracts, negotiated with mayors and secretaries. The company grew from 12 employees to 120, and when Gabriel discovered his cancer, already 68 years old, tired but happy, he called Marcus into the office and said, "I'm going to retire, and you will take over." Marcus felt the floor disappear. "Gabriel, you built this with me." Gabriel's voice was firm, even with his hand shaking on the table. "You saved this company 3 times. You brought in clients that I would never get. You deserve this chair." "And the other partners?" Gabriel gave a tired smile. "They're going to have to suck it up." And that's exactly what happened. When Gabriel announced his decision, 2 partners resigned. A third party tried to legally block the succession. Customers called, concerned about the transition. Suppliers asked for meetings, just to understand the new direction. But Marcus didn't back down. Over the next 2 years, he tripled his revenue, opened 3 branches. He won bids that seemed impossible, implemented diversity programs, trained leaders, reformed the company's culture. But the price was high, because there were people who never accepted it. Now, Marcus entered the office and locked the door. He took off his jacket, loosened his tie, and sat down in the leather chair that still smelled of Gabriel. The room was silent, just the distant noise of the central air conditioning and the traffic below, 17 floors below. He wasn't mad at Amanda. He was tired of having to measure every word, every gesture, every tone of voice, because if he was too firm, he was aggressive. If he disagreed, he was arrogant. If he demanded results, he would be a dictator. If he laughed out loud, it was disrespectful. If he got serious, he was hostile. The other CEOs could scream, hit the table, sending emails in caps lock at 3 in the morning, swearing in meetings, threatening to be fired due to a tantrum. But Marcus had to be perfect. He took a deep breath, massaged his temples, and opened his laptop. 3 new emails. The first was from HR, nothing important, confirmation of hiring 2 interns. The second was from Fernanda, from finance, asking for an urgent meeting about cash flow and projections for the second half of the year. Strange. They had just gone over everything last week. The numbers were solid. Why the urgency? The third, Marcus frowned. It was from an unknown number. No subject, just 1 line. "You should pay more attention to meetings that happen without you." He read it again, and again. What meetings? Marcus opened the board's shared agenda. Nothing out of the ordinary. Weekly meetings, alignments with customers, results presentations, everything recorded, everything transparent. But then he remembered, 3 times in the last 2 weeks he had arrived in the meeting room to find some of the team already dispersing. Fernanda putting away papers too quickly. Carlos turning off the notebook in a hurry. Amanda leaving through the side door. It was just a quick alignment, they said. It wasn't a big deal. Routine thing, Marcus. He always believed. But now, Marcus looked at the email again. Who had sent it? Why? And what meetings were these? He took out his cell phone and called Julio. "Julio, I need you here. Now." "I'm coming, boss." 3 minutes later, Julio knocked on the door and entered with a worried look on his face. He was a man in his 50s, gray hair, prescription glasses, loyal since the days of Gabriel. "What's up, Marcus? All good?" "That meeting was tense, but you resolved it with class, as always." "Julio, tell me something." Marcus rotated the laptop screen. "Do you know of any meetings that are taking place without me?" Julius blinked. He hesitated. He looked away. Look, Marcus." Julius, the truth. The man sighed deeply, took off his glasses and rubbed his face. When he sat in the chair opposite, he looked as if he had aged 10 years. "There's a meeting tonight, at Carlos's house. Part of the board will be there, and Amanda too." Marcus felt his stomach go cold. A cold sting went up his spine. "About what?" Julio opened his mouth. It closed. He looked at the window. He looked at the floor. Then he said in a low voice, "About you." Marcus looked at Julius as if the ground had opened beneath his feet. "Meeting about me?" His voice was lower than he intended. "What kind of meeting, Julio?" The older man sighed and looked at his hands. When he finally spoke, he seemed to have been carrying a weight for weeks. "They are discussing your leadership, saying that the company is losing identity, that you are radicalizing the internal culture with diversity policies, that old customers are uncomfortable." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "Uncomfortable with what?" "With you, Marcus." Julio took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "With a black CEO. They don't talk like that, of course. They use other words. Aggressive profile, centralizing management, lack of experience in certain circles. But deep down, basically that's it." Marcus leaned back in the chair, feeling the cold leather against his back. "And Carlos? Fernanda? Amanda? Everyone is involved. Carlos is the one who organizes the meetings. Fernanda brings the numbers manipulated to make it look like the company is bleeding money. And Amanda what? She's the spokesperson. She talks to the board. He says the team is suffocated, that you don't accept criticism, that people are afraid to disagree with you. Marcus let out a dry, humorless laugh. Scared of me. The same Amanda who just called me arrogant in front of everyone and left the meeting room in one piece. Exactly. Julio put his glasses back on. It was theater, Marcus. She wanted to tease you, see how you would react. And you reacted very well. This complicates their plan. What plan? Julius hesitated. He took a deep breath. They want to remove you from the CEO chair. They are putting together a dossier, gathering evidence of mismanagement, pressuring the board to vote for his departure. The silence that followed was crushing. Marcus closed his eyes. Images flashed by. Gabriel shaking her hand on the last day, the empty office after the succession announcement, the looks of disdain in the first meetings with clients, the veiled jokes at industry events, the loneliness of being the only black CEO in rooms full of white men in suits. And now this. Why didn't you tell me before? Marcus's voice came out without anger, just tiredness. Because I thought it would pass. I thought it was just resentment, that they were going to see the results and stop it. Julio shook his head. But today when I received the invitation to the meeting, I knew it was serious. Were you invited? I went, and I refused. Julio looked firmly into Marcus's eyes. I don't play against you. I never played. Gabriel trusted you. I trust you. And this company is only standing because of you. Marcus nodded slowly. Julio's loyalty was one of the few certainties he still had. Where's the meeting? What time? Carlos's house. Jardim Europa. At 8 o'clock at night. Fernanda, Amanda, Rogerio from the council, Beatriz, and probably Mario will be there. Marcus knew these names. Rogerio was the oldest advisor, a 70-year-old man who never hid his preference for the old way of doing things. Beatriz was the daughter of one of the original partners. She never accepted the succession. And Mario was the legal director. Ambiguous, calculating. And what do they hope to achieve today? Align the speech, set the voting date, and surprise you at the board meeting on Friday. Friday, in 3 days. Marcus took a deep breath and looked out the window. The city stretched out below, lights beginning to come on in the twilight. He had built something here. He had honored Gabriel. He had proven himself 1,000 times over. And even then, it wasn't enough. It never would be. Marcus? Julio stood up. What are you going to do? Marcus swiveled his chair around and opened a new folder on his computer. I'll do what I've always done, Julio. To work. In 6 years earlier, Marcus was in the hallway when he heard Gabriel's voice coming from the meeting room. It was a loud, firm, angry voice, something rare in the founding partner. I won't discuss this again, Beatriz. Marcus stays, and that's final. Marcus stopped. He leaned against the wall, out of sight. Father, for the love of God. Beatriz's voice was squeaky. You brought a trainee to command a 2 million operation. 2 million. What if he screws up? He won't ruin it. How do you know? Because I trust him. Because he studies more than anyone here. Because he delivers. And because, Beatriz, he is hungry. Gabriel paused. Something you never had. The silence was icy. This is about him, isn't it? Beatriz spat out the words. You want to prove something. He wants to be the good businessman, the hero of diversity, and you're going to risk my inheritance for that? Your inheritance? Gabriel's voice became dangerously low. You've never worked a day at this company, Beatriz. You've never closed a contract, never fought over a client, never stayed up until midnight reviewing notices. Marcus does this every day, so don't talk to me about inheritance. Marcus heard furious footsteps. Beatriz walked past him without looking, her face red, her eyes shining with anger. Gabriel appeared at the door seconds later. He saw Marcus standing there and sighed. You heard. I heard. Great Mo. So you already know that there are people here who will never accept you. Gabriel crossed his arms. And do you know what you're going to do? Marcus lifted his chin. I will prove them wrong. Gabriel smiled. Exactly. Genau. Marcus spent the next 2 hours digging. He's opened every email he's sent in the last 3 weeks, checked attachments, reviewed threads. He searched for names. Carlos, Fernanda, Amanda, Beatriz, Rogerio. Nothing obvious. They were smart, but he was more. Then he remembered. The company used a shared platform for calendars. He opened the administrative system and filtered out unofficial meetings, those marked as personal block or external. In the last 15 days, there were 7 simultaneous blocks between Carlos, Fernanda, and Amanda, always at the same time, always outside the company. 7 secret meetings. Marcus felt his jaw lock. He clicked on another tab, financial system, reviewed representation expenses, and he found something strange. 3 recent dinners paid for by the company on Carlos's corporate card, more than 4,000 reais each, classified as customer prospecting. But the listed customers, they didn't exist. Marcus printed the receipts. Then he checked the email sent by Fernanda to the council. It had submitted a preliminary financial report a week ago, highlighting concerns about sustainability of the current model. Marcus opened the file, read, and he felt his anger rising. The numbers were distorted. Fernanda had included training costs as operational waste. He had omitted 3 recently concluded contracts. I had projected a drop in revenue based on completely unrealistic scenarios. It was pure manipulation. He saved everything in an encrypted folder. Then he remembered the anonymous email. It opened again. Reread, "You should pay more attention to meetings that happen without you." Who had sent it and why? Marcus took out his cell phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in months. 3 rings. A female voice answered. "Hello? Camila, it's me." Marcus. Pause. Marcus. "Wow, it's been a while. Everything okay?" Camila was Gabriel's former assistant. He had left the company a year before, when he moved to Curitiba, but she knew behind the scenes like no one else. "Camila, I need a favor. It's urgent." "Of course." What it was? "Do you still have access to the old manager's WhatsApp group?" "Yes, I have." "Why?" "Can you check if there have been any recent conversations about me?" Silence. Marcus. "What's going on?" "Please, Camila. Just look and call me back." "Okay, give me 10 minutes." She hung up. Marcus got up, went to the window and placed his forehead against the cold glass. Below, the city followed its rhythm. Cars, people, lives that didn't know about the silent battle he fought every day just to maintain the respect that should be automatic. Gabriel had warned, "You'll have to be 10 times better, and even then, they'll say it was luck." The cell phone vibrated. Message from Camila. "Marcus, there's a heavy conversation. I'm sending you a screenshot, but promise me you'll be careful." The screen lit up. 5 images arrived. Marcus opened it and read it. Carlos. "Meeting confirmed today at 8 p.m. Rogerio and Beatriz have already confirmed their presence. Mario is on the fence, but he's going. Fernanda. I took the financial dossier. It's consistent. If we present it on Friday, the council won't have a choice. Amanda. I provoked him today. I called him arrogant in front of the team. He reacted exactly as we expected. Calm, didactic, superior. You can use that. Carlos. Perfect. The longer he holds back, the easier it is to paint him as distant and authoritarian. Let's record Friday's meeting. Beatriz. My father is turning over in his grave seeing what this man did to his company, but we're going to fix this. Marcus felt his chest tighten. The hands were shaking. He read it again and again. That man. Not even his name. He saved the prince, took a deep breath and replied to Camila, "Thank you. You saved me." Then Marcus sat down, opened a blank document and began writing. He had 3 days, and he wasn't going to waste a second. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He stayed until 4 in the morning, reviewing every print, every email, every receipt, created a timeline, crossed dates, identified patterns, and the more he dug, the more rotten it became. The conspiracy hadn't started 2 weeks ago. It had started months ago. Since the January meeting when Marcus presented the company's expansion plan for the Northeast, a bold but necessary move. Rogerio had raised concerns about viability. Beatriz had called it a risky impulse. Mario had asked for more studies. Marcus had done his studies, proven viability, and even so the council shelved the proposal. At the time he thought it was caution. Now I understood. It was sabotage. They wanted him to fail, or better yet, they wanted to create failures where none existed. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Marcus took a shower, put on his gray suit, Gabriel's favorite, and left the house before the sun fully rose. In the car, he called the only man on the board he could still trust. 3 rings. A hoarse voice answered. "Marcus, what time is it?" "Sorry, Antonio. I know it's early, but I need to talk to you, personally, today." Antonio Ferreira was the youngest advisor, 52 years old, former multinational executive, pragmatic and fair man. He had voted in favor of Marcus's succession when everyone else had hesitated. "Is something happening?" "Yes, and it's serious." Pause. "Breakfast. Santo Antonio Bakery, 7:30. I'll be there." "Thanks." Marcus hung up and continued driving. The streets were still empty, the sky tinged with orange and pink. He turned on the radio but then turned it off. I needed to think. At 25:07 he parked in front of the bakery. Antonio was already at a table in the back, cup of steaming coffee in his hand, newspaper open. Marcus sat down. He ordered a black coffee. He waited for the waitress to leave. "Antonio, I'll be direct. There are people on the board conspiring to get me out of the company." Antonio slowly put down the newspaper. "Conspiring is a strong word, Marcus. I have proof." Marcus pulled out his cell phone and slid the prints across the table. Conversations, manipulated documents, secret meetings, everything coordinated to destabilize me and force a vote on Friday. Antonio took out his cell phone, Read. He frowned, read it again. His face became more and more serious. This is serious. I know. Are you sure this is real? Marcus looked straight into his eyes. Absolute. Antonio returned the cell phone and took a deep breath. What do you need from me? Time. And vote. When this blows up on Friday, I need to know that you won't abandon me. Marcus, if what you're showing is true, I'll vote for you without blinking. Antonio bowed. But you have to be prepared, because Rogerio and Beatriz have influence, and Mario is slippery. If they turn the tables, they won't turn. Marcus's voice was firm. Because I won't let you. Antonio smiled sideways. Gabriel was right about you. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Thanks. Gurstaga suck in the office, 9 in the morning. Marcus arrived and went straight to the living room. Julio was already waiting with fresh coffee and a worried expression. And there, how it was? Antonio is on our side. Marcus took off his jacket and sat down. But it's still not enough. I need more proof. And I need to find out who else is involved. There's something you need to know. Julio pulled out the chair. Fernanda asked to meet with you today at 11. Urgent, according to her. Marcus raised an eyebrow. About what? I didn't say, but I'd bet it's to try to convince you of something, or to test you. Let her come. At 11 o'clock sharp, Fernanda knocked on the door. Marcus looked up from the computer and gestured for her to come in. Fernanda was a woman in her 40s. Short hair, thin glasses, always impeccable. She sat down with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. Marcus, thank you for having me. Of course, Fernanda. What do you need? She opened the folder and slid a report across the table. I was reviewing the financial projections for the second semester and, well, I'm worried. Marcus took the paper, read. He recognized the distorted numbers she had sent to the board. Worried about what, exactly? With sustainability, we are spending a lot on training, diversity, expansion, and new contracts are not paying off at the pace we need. Marcus looked up slowly. Fernanda, we closed 3 big contracts in the last 5 weeks. Revenue rose 17%. Cash flow is healthy. In the short term, yes. But in the long run, in the long term, we are building a solid foundation. Marcus slid the paper back. What do you want, Fernanda? She blinked in surprise. Like this? Do you want me to cut training? Should I cancel the expansion? That I stop investing in the team? I just think we need to be more cautious. Marcus sat back in his chair and looked at her. Or you want me to make a mistake big enough to justify a change of leadership. The silence that fell was icy. Fernanda opened her mouth. It closed. He tried to smile. Marcus, I don't know where you got that from. I know about the meeting tonight at Carlos's house. Marcus spoke slowly, each word heavy. I know you sent doctored reports to the council. I know that you, Carlos, and Amanda are working together to take me down. Fernanda's face turned white, then red. This is absurd. Who told you? It doesn't matter who told me. It matters that it's true. Marcus leaned forward. And you'll have to choose a side, Fernanda. Because on Friday, when all this comes afloat, you will be on the right side or the wrong side. There is no middle ground. Fernanda stood up abruptly, took the folder with shaking hands. You're paranoid, Marcus. And this just proves that you are not prepared to lead this company. And he left, slamming the door. Marcus exhaled slowly. His hands were shaking slightly. He had thrown his cards on the table too soon, but I needed to see the reaction, and he saw it. Julio ran in seconds later. I heard everything from the hallway. Are you sure it was a good idea to confront her now? No, Marcus rubbed his face. But now they know that I know, and this will force them to act quickly, and people in a hurry make mistakes. Somewhat teaching 2 hours later. Marcus was reviewing contracts when the phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Hello? Marcus Almeida? Male voice. Formal. Yes? Who speaks? My name is Enrique Montero. I am a lawyer on the administrative board of Almeida and Santos. I'm calling to inform you that there has been a request for an extraordinary board meeting, scheduled for tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Marcus sat up straight. Tomorrow? The meeting is on Friday. There has been a change. The council considered that there are urgent issues that need to be discussed immediately. Your presence is mandatory. What questions? This will be presented at the meeting. Have a good day, Mr. Almeida. And hung up. Marcus stared at his cell phone screen. The heart was beating wildly. They anticipated the meeting. He had thought he would have 3 days. Now he had less than 24 hours. Marcus took out his cell phone and called Julio. Julio, extraordinary meeting tomorrow at 10. They advanced. Shit. Julio said a word he rarely used. What are you going to do? I'll get ready. Marcus looked at the photo of Gabrielle on the wall. And I'm going to end this once and for all. He hung up and opened the laptop. I needed more ammunition, more proof, more strength. And then he remembered. The meeting at Carlos's house was tonight. If he could record what they were planning. Marcus picked up his cell phone again and called a number he hadn't used in years. Mauricio, it's me, Marcus. I need a favor. 8:30 at night. Jardim Europa. Marcus was parked 3 blocks from Carlos's house in the driver's seat, window ajar, eyes fixed on the tree-lined street. He was wearing a dark jacket, cap pulled over his forehead. In the back seat, Mauricio, a private investigator that Marcus had hired years ago to investigate bid fraud, was adjusting a directional microphone. "Are you getting it?" Marcus asked softly. "Perfectly." Mauricio pointed the equipment to the lighted window in Carlos's room. "The room is full. I can see at least 5 people." Marcus took a deep breath. The heart was beating hard. He knew this was on the edge of legality, but he had no choice. Then the voices came, clear through the phone that Mauricio passed to him. "Carlos. Well, then we're all aligned. Tomorrow at 10 we'll present the complete dossier. Fernanda shows the numbers. Amanda talks about the internal climate, and I'll close with the cases of dissatisfied customers. Beatriz. And Rogerio has already guaranteed that the majority of the council will vote for dismissal. Rogerio. I have 4 guaranteed votes. With mine, there are 5. We need 6 for a majority. Antonio is unpredictable. Mario. What if Marcus presents a defense? Carlos. Defense of what? He doesn't know anything. Fernanda tested him today and he's in the dark. Marcus clenched his fists. Amanda. He confronted me yesterday. He said he knew about the meeting. Tense silence. Fernanda. He confronted me today too, and he mentioned Prince. More silence. Beatriz. How did he do that? Carlos. It doesn't matter. Even if he has something, it doesn't change the fact that the board no longer trusts him. We just need to maintain the narrative. He is aggressive, centralizing, and is putting ideology above results. Rogerio. What if he takes evidence? Mario. Evidence of what? That we got together? That's not a crime. That the numbers are bad. That's interpretation. He doesn't have anything solid. Beatriz. My father left this company to him out of pity, because he wanted to feel good. But the truth is that Almeida and Santos has always been a family company, and Marcus was never family. Marcus closed his eyes. The pain was physical. Mauricio touched his shoulder. It's all recorded. All. Marcus took off the phone and laid his head on the seat. He had everything. Every word. Every conspiracy. Every lie. But hearing Beatrice say that he was never family, after 14 years of blood, sweat, and sacrifice, was a stab he hadn't expected. Mauricio put away the equipment and said quietly, "What are you going to do now?" Marcus opened his eyes. He looked at the illuminated house, to the shadows of the conspirators in the window, and he replied, his voice firm, "I'm going to show them who I really am." On midnight, Marcus arrived home exhausted. He locked the door, threw the keys on the table, and went straight to the bedroom. But before bed, he opened his laptop and started putting together his presentation, slide by slide, proof by proof, print by print, audio for audio. He worked until 3 in the morning, and when he finally lay down, a single phrase echoed in his head. Marcus was never family. He was going to prove them wrong. Not for Beatriz, not for Rogerio, not for any of them, but for Gabrielle, and for yourself. Marcus couldn't sleep more than 2 hours. At 5 in the morning he was already up, fresh coffee in hand, eyes fixed on the presentation he had put together. 73 slides, each one of them is a bomb. He reviewed everything for the 5th time, checked the audios, checked the prints, validated the documents. There could be no mistake. There could be no breach. At 7, Julio knocked on the office door. Marcus had asked him to arrive early. When the man entered, he was carrying 2 bags of bread and orange juice. "You need to eat something before that," Julio said, placing everything on the table. "There's no point in being right if you faint in the middle of the meeting." Marcus smiled tiredly. "Thanks." They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Julius cleared his throat. "Are you ready?" "I don't know if anyone is ready for that." Marcus bit into the bread but barely tasted it. "But I have everything. Every test. Every lie. Every betrayal. And Antonio. Confirmed vote. And he will take another counselor. Teresa Campos." Julio raised his eyebrows. "Teresa? Serious?" "Serious. I called her last night, showed her part of the evidence. She was shocked." Marcus drank his coffee. 2 votes guaranteed. I need 3 more. And the others? They'll decide right away, when they see what I have." Julio took a deep breath. "Marcus, He stopped. Tried again. "Gabriel would be proud of you." Marcus felt the lump in his throat. He looked away. "I hope so." There's Sao por 9:45 in the morning. Marcus entered the company building wearing the navy blue suit, the same one he wore the day Gabriel announced the succession. Gray tie, shine shoes, leather briefcase in hand. He was going up in the elevator when his cell phone vibrated. Message from Antonio. "I'm here. Teresa too. We'll hold the line. We trust you." Marcus typed back. "Thank you. See you soon." The doors to the 17th floor opened. The hallway was silent, empty, as if the entire company was holding its breath. Marcus walked to the council room. The frosted glass door made it possible to see shadows inside, muffled voices. He stopped for a second, took a deep breath, and pushed the door open. 9 people around the table. Rogerio at the head, old, frowning, with his arms crossed. Beatriz next to him, black dress, hard expression. Carlos and Fernanda on the other side, tense posture. Amanda further back, as an observer. Mario in the corner playing on his cell phone, and 3 other advisors, Antonio, Teresa, and Claudio, the latter a neutral man, 60 years old, who rarely took sides. Everyone looked up when Marcus entered. He greeted with a wave, pulled out the chair on the opposite side of Rogerio and sat down. He placed the folder on the table. He opened the laptop, connected the cable to the projector. Rogerio cleared his throat. "Good morning, Marcus. Thank you for attending." "Good morning." Marcus spoke calmly, looking at each person around. "Thank you for the extraordinary summons. I imagine it's important." Beatriz narrowed her eyes. Carlos avoided his gaze. Fernanda pretended to write something down. Rogerio continued. "Marcus, we called this meeting because concerns arose. Serious concerns about the company's management in recent months." "Concerns," Marcus repeated, without emotion. "What kind?" Rogerio waved to Fernanda. "Fernanda, please." Fernanda got up, connected her laptop and opened a presentation. First image, graphics in red. "Advisors, as financial director, it is my duty to alert you to the worrying situation of the company." His voice was firm, rehearsed. "In the last 6 months, there has been a 32% increase in operational costs, mainly with training and diversity policies. Meanwhile, net revenue fell 8%. Marcus didn't move, just watched. She continued. "In addition, we have reports of customers being dissatisfied with abrupt changes in the company's culture, and there is an internal atmosphere, tense." Carlos stood up. "I can compliment." He opened a folder. 3 important clients requested a contract review. 2 of them explicitly mentioned discomfort with the company's new direction. Beatrice entered, and I, as the daughter of the founder, feel obliged to say, this is not the company my father built. Marcus brought a political agenda that is alienating our partner's historical ire. Marcus breathed slowly. Every word was a stab, but he waited. Mario, the lawyer, spoke for the first time. "From a legal point of view, there is no formal irregularity, but there is a question of strategic alignment." Rogerio knocked on the table gently. "Marcus, do you have something to say?" Silence. Marcus looked around. He saw Antonio and Teresa tense, ready to defend. He saw Claudio undecided. He saw the confident conspirators. Then he got up. "Yes, I have." He opened the laptop. The projector screen has changed. First slide, the truth about conspiracy. The atmosphere in the room froze. Beatrice's eyes widened. Carlos turned white. Fernanda swallowed dryly. Marcus began, voice calm. "Counselors, I came here today not to defend myself against empty accusations. I came to expose a fraud, a conspiracy hatched by people in this room with the sole aim of removing me from leadership, not because of incompetence but out of prejudice. This is absurd." Beatrice stood up. "Sit down." Marcus didn't scream, but the authority in the voice made her hesitate. "I will taste every word." It clicked. Second slide, prints of WhatsApp group conversations. "This is the private group of old managers. Conversations from the last 15 days. Marcus began to read, slowly. "I provoked him today. I called him arrogant in front of the team." He looked at Amanda. "That was you, Amanda. Yesterday at the meeting. It was planned." Amanda opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Next print. "The longer he holds back, the easier it is to paint him as distant and authoritarian." Marcus looked at Carlos. "You were testing me. They wanted me to explode. But I didn't explode." Carlos tried. "Marcus, that's out of context." "Out of context?" Marcus clicked again. "I took the financial dossier. It's solid. If we present it on Friday, the council won't have a choice." He turned to the projector and highlighted Fernanda's message. "Fernanda, you manipulated numbers." He omitted 3 contracts, inflated costs, everything to create a crisis that doesn't exist. "I am not." "You don't what?" Marcus opened another tab. "Here are the real numbers. Independent audit. Revenue rose 17%. Positive cash flow. Rising profit margin. You lied to the council." Antonio knocked on the table. "This is very serious." Teresa was pale, looking at the prince with a shocked expression. Marcus continued relentlessly. "But there's more." He clicked. Audio started playing. Carlos's voice echoed through the room. "Well, then we're all lined up. Tomorrow at 10 we'll present the complete dossier, the blood drained from the faces of the conspirators. And has Rogerio already guaranteed that the majority of the council will vote for dismissal?" "I have 4 guaranteed votes." Rogerio stood up, blushing. "How did you do that?" Marcus stopped the audio and looked at him. "It doesn't matter how. It matters that it's real. It matters that you conspired against me for months. Secret meetings, false documents, Coordinated defamation. He clicked again. The last slide. One sentence. Huge on the screen. My father left this company to him out of pity. Marcus was never family. Marcus turned to Beatrice. His voice was low, full of pain and contained anger. I was never family. After 14 years, after saving this company 3 times, after carrying your father's name with honor, I was never family. Beatrice was shaking. I didn't mean... You wanted it. Marcus took a deep breath. And now everyone here knows the truth. You are not worried about the company. You are concerned about the fact that a black man is in the seat that you think is yours by right of blood. Absolute silence. Antonio got up. I propose an immediate vote, not about Marcus staying, but about the expulsion of those responsible for this fraud. Teresa nodded in support. I agree. Claudio, who had been quiet the entire time, finally spoke. Me too. This is unacceptable. Rogerio tried to regain control. You can't. Yes, we can. Antonio crossed his arms. Article 47 of the statute, proven bad faith results in immediate dismissal of members. Beatrice pointed to Marcus, voice squeaky. He recorded us. This is illegal. Marcus turned to Mario, the lawyer. Mario, tell me, is a recording made in self-defense, with evidence of conspiracy and fraud, admissible? Mario hesitated. He swallowed dryly. Yeah, technically yes. Beatrice exploded. Watch your next word. Marcus cut her off, firmly. Because everything here is being recorded, and if you finish that sentence, you'll have another lawsuit on your back. She got stuck. Rogerio tried one last trick. Marcus, do you really think you can run this company after this? You just exposed half the board. It created chaos. Proved to be, what am I, Rogerio? Marcus took a step forward. Arrogant, aggressive, unprepared. Come on, say it. Rogerio looked away. Marcus looked around the room. I have been leading this company for 2 years. We tripled revenue. We opened branches. We won impossible bids. We create an environment where everyone has a voice. And you tried to destroy me because you can't accept that a black man is better than you. He closed the laptop. So now, counselors, you decide, me or them, but you can't have both. Antonio raised his hand. I vote for Marcus to remain and the immediate dismissal of Carlos, Fernanda, and Amanda, and formal investigation into Rogerio and Beatrice. Second. Teresa raised her hand. Claudius hesitated. He looked at Marcus. He looked at the conspirators. Then he raised his hand. Third. 2 more counselors who had been silent raised their hands. 5 votes. Majority. Rogerio slammed the folder on the table and left the room, furious. Beatrice followed him, angry tears in her eyes. Carlos, Fernanda, and Amanda were paralyzed. Antonio looked at them. You have until the end of the day to clean the tables. Security will escort you. Amanda tried to speak, but No. Marcus cut her off. He finished. They left, heads down. The room fell silent. Marcus leaned against the table, feeling the weight of everything finally fall. Julio walked through the door, eyes shining. You did it. Marcus took a deep breath. He smiled tiredly. We did it. But then his cell phone vibrated. Message from unknown number. Congratulations, Marcus. But do you really think this ends here? Rogerio has powerful friends, and Beatrice won't stop. Be careful. The smile disappeared. Marcus looked at Julio. It's not over yet. 3 days later, Marcus was in the office when Julio came in with the day's newspaper. He threw it on the table, his face tense. You need to see this. Marcus picked up the newspaper. Economic section headline. CEO of Almeida and Santos under investigation for hostile work environment, says former advisor. Below, a photo of Beatrice in an interview. Marcus read it. Every word was pure poison. Beatrice alleged that Marcus had created a climate of fear in the company, that he preyed on white employees, that used racial narratives to silence legitimate criticism, that the company was on the verge of collapse under his ideological management. The article cited anonymous sources, clearly Carlos, Fernanda, and Amanda. Marcus closed the newspaper slowly. They won't stop. They won't. Julio sat down. Beatrice has friends in 3 newspapers. Rogerio knows half of the business community in São Paulo. They will try to destroy your reputation publicly. And legally, Mario filed an appeal with the council. It claims the vote was rigged because you presented illegally obtained evidence. You want to cancel everything. Marcus took a deep breath. He felt tiredness weigh on his shoulders. Julio, I tried everything. I showed the frauds. I exposed the lies. And yet they have power. Julio added, his voice full. But you have something they will never have, Marcus. What? The truth. Marcus looked out the window. The sky was gray, threatening rain. He thought of Gabriel. What would he say now? And then I knew what to do. 2 days later, press conference. Marcus called the press. Not in a small room, not in a timid statement. He rented the auditorium of the most important hotel in the city and invited all the vehicles. When he took the stage, there were 50 journalists in the audience, TV cameras, recorders, flashes. He was wearing a navy blue suit, gray tie, and he carried a briefcase. Marcus adjusted the microphone and began. Good morning. My name is Marcus Almeida, CEO of Almeida and Santos Consultoria, and I came here today not to defend myself. I came to tell the truth. Total silence. In recent days, you have read articles accusing me of creating a hostile environment, of harassing employees, of being incompetent. He paused. This is all a lie, and I will prove it. He opened the folder and began distributing copies of documents to reporters. These are the company's real numbers. Independent audit. Revenue rose 17% last year. Profit margin grew. We opened 3 branches. We hired 80 people, and we won 7 bids that placed us among the 3 largest consultancies in the state. The journalists leafed through the papers in surprise, but a group within the company didn't like that. Not because I failed, but because I'm black. Marcus let the sentence weigh heavily, and they can't accept that a black man leads a company that they consider theirs. He distributed more documents. Here is the evidence. Group conversations planning my takedown, manipulated financial documents sent to counsel, coordinated secret meetings. Everything planned by Beatriz Santos, Rogerio Carvalho, Carlos Mendez, Fernanda Lima, and Amanda Costa. A reporter raised his hand. Mr. Almeida, Mrs. Beatriz claims that this evidence was obtained illegally. They were obtained in self-defense. Marcus replied firmly. When you find out they are conspiring to destroy you, investigating is not a crime. It's survival. Another reporter. What about employees who claim a hostile environment? Which employees? Marcus opened his arms. The 3 who were fired for proven fraud, they are the only anonymous sources. The rest of the company is here with me, and you can interview whoever you want. He waved to the back of the auditorium. 20 Almeida and Santos employees were standing, including Julio. One of them, a young black analyst named Rafael, stood up and took the microphone. My name is Rafael Costa. I have worked at the company for 3 years, and I want to say, Marcus Almeida is the best boss I've ever had. He gave me opportunities when no one else did, trained me, promoted me, and it created a place where I can be who I am without fear. If this is a hostile environment, then the whole of Brazil needs more hostility. Shy applause began and grew louder. A white analyst named Patricia also stood up. I'm white, and I've been working here for 5 years. I have never been persecuted. I have never been silenced. What Marcus did was create equality, and this bothered people who were used to privileges. Just like that, more applause. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He hadn't asked anyone to do this, but they came. He returned to the microphone. I'm not perfect, I make mistakes, but I work with honor. I respect each person, and I built this company with sweat, study, and dedication. His voice shook slightly. Gabriel Santos gave me a chance when no one else did, and I promised him I wouldn't let anyone say I didn't deserve it, so I won't let lies destroy what we built. He took a deep breath. Beatriz Santos and Rogerio Carvalho could try to take me down, but the truth is here, and the truth does not bend. He thanked her and left. In the following days, the narrative changed. Newspapers published the documents. The audit has been confirmed. Employees gave interviews, and public opinion turned against the conspirators. Beatriz tried to give another interview, but was confronted live by a journalist who read the group's conversations. She stuttered. He didn't talk, and she left humiliated. Rogerio lost the presidency of 2 business associations. Mario was investigated by the OAB for unethical conduct. Carlos, Fernanda, and Amanda were banned from several companies in the sector. No one wanted to hire public conspirators. And Marcus went back to work. And 2 months later, the council room was full again. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Antonio opened the meeting with a smile. Gentlemen, I am pleased to announce Almeida and Santos has closed the biggest contract in the company's history. Comprehensive consultancy for the state government. 3 years, 50 million. Applause echoed. Teresa stood up. And I would like to propose something. Marcus, over the past few months you have proven not only competence but character. I propose that you be appointed CEO for life, with a protection clause against future maneuvers. Silence. Then Claudio knocked on the table. Second, unanimous vote. Marcus stood up, moved. Julio beside him smiled with teary eyes. Thanks. Marcus took a deep breath. I didn't do this alone. Every person who stayed with me, every employee who believed, every customer who trusted. You built this with me, and I promise this company will be a place where everyone has a chance. It doesn't matter the color, it doesn't matter the origin. If you work with honor, you have space here. More applause. After the meeting, Marcus returned to the office. He locked the door. He sat in the leather chair that still smelled faintly of Gabriel. He looked at the photo on the wall. Gabriel smiling, hand on his shoulder. Inauguration day as CEO. Marcus felt the tears come down. We did it, Gabriel. His voice was a whisper. I didn't let anyone tell me I didn't deserve it, just like you asked. He stayed there in silence for long minutes. Then the cell phone vibrated. Message from an unknown number, the same one that had sent the anonymous warnings. Marcus opened it. Congratulations, Marcus. You deserved it. I was Gabriel's assistant. I saw him fight for you until the end, and I saw them plot your downfall. That's why I warned you. Take good care of this company. He trusted you. Camilla. Marcus smiled. Camilla, the former assistant who had sent the group's prints. He typed, "Thank you for everything. You saved more than a company. You saved a legacy." Wire to 6 months later. Marcus was at the inauguration of the company's 4th branch, this time in Recife, the expansion to the northeast that the council had blocked. He cut the ribbon alongside Julio, Rafael, Patricia, and 20 new employees, half of them black, half of them from communities that had never had an opportunity in consultancy. The flashes clicked. The sign glowed. Almeida and Santos Consultoria, Recife. Below, a sentence that Marcus had insisted on adding, founded by Gabriel Santos, honored by all of us. That night, Marcus returned to the hotel and called his mother. "Mom, we opened today." Her voice came excitedly from the other side. "My son, your father would be so proud." Marcus smiled. "Me too, Mom. I am too." 1 year later, Saturday morning, Marcus was in the cemetery. He visited Gabriel's grave every month, but today was special. He placed fresh flowers and sat on the stone bench at the side. "Gabriel, I brought news." Marcus spoke softly, as if his old friend were there. "The company broke a revenue record, 100 million this year. We have 6 branches now. And do you know the best? 40% of the team is made up of people who would never have a chance in traditional companies. Black, peripheral, women, LGBTQIA+. We are changing the game." The wind blew gently, swaying the trees. "And do you know that Beatriz? She lost all her shares. He's suing us, but he won't win. Rogerio retired, for health reasons. Carlos opened a company, but it went bankrupt within 6 months. Fernanda and Amanda, nobody hires." Marcus smiled. "Justice took a long time, but it arrived." He took a deep breath. "But the most important thing, Gabriel, is that I understand. You didn't leave me the company because I was perfect. You left it because I knew its value, because I came from below, because I would never forget what it's like to be underestimated." His voice broke. "And you were right. I will never forget." Marcus stayed there for a few more minutes. Then he got up, touched the tombstone and whispered, "Thanks for believing in me when no one else did. I will honor this until the last day." He left the cemetery with a light heart. Epilogue. 5 years later, Almeida and Santos was the largest independent consultancy in the country. Marcus had become a national reference in leadership and diversity. He gave lectures, mentored young black executives, and he created a scholarship fund in the name of Gabriel Santos. Beatriz tried to sue the company 3 more times, lost them all. Rogerio died at the age of 76, isolated and bitter. Carlos never got a job in the area again. Fernanda became a freelance consultant without the shine she used to have. Amanda moved to another city, embarrassed. And Marcus? Marcus continued working, leading, building, because he had learned something Gabriel had always known. Character is not inherited. Character is conquered. And Marcus Almeida had won his. And final reflection. There are those who are born in cradles of gold. There are those who inherit empires. There are those who have their path paved by surnames, connections, and privileges. Marcus had none of that. He had sweat. He had sleepless nights. There were closed doors. There were words like arrogant thrown around like knives. But he had something bigger, purpose. Gabriel Santos saw this, and he bet, not out of pity, not out of charity, but because he recognized real fire. Marcus proved that merit has no color, that leadership has no DNA, that competence is not measured by last name. And when they tried to take away from him what was his right to work, he didn't scream, he didn't beg, he didn't bow. He simply tasted it, with numbers, with integrity, truly, and he won, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And you? Have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever heard that you weren't fit? Have you ever had your work stolen, your voice silenced, your value denied? So you know what Marcus felt. But he also knows that the answer isn't in shouting louder. It's about working deeper. It's proving day after day that they were wrong, because in the end, the truth always wins, and character always shines through. Did this story touch you? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments. Share with whoever needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel. Every week, a new story of courage, justice, and redemption, because everyone deserves a second chance to be heard. And every Marcus deserves his Gabriel.